Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel where today we're going to be continuing with the React SAD to Chad series. I didn't get to upload this morning because last night I was working on a recording that would have gone out this morning, but about halfway through kind of working through it, I realized that I had accidentally left my mic off. So here we are. I just want to start out by giving a quick overview of what we achieved 2 nights ago. So this is the current state of Planner. Pretty bare bones, but basically we have a simple page title, places for the user to input a task title and a task description. These 2 buttons to submit a task or clear the task that the user has submitted. Currently, of course, we don't really have a running list of tasks quite yet, but that is what we're going to be working on implementing today. And then the submitted task counter that just basically for the time being counts how many times the user clicks submit basically and clear tasks. We'll just reset that number. So before starting the recording today, I did make a few changes to app.js. As you can see here, I restructured the application after looking at some other React code online because I felt that this made more sense. And I've set it up in a hierarchical order. So what that means is the most top level component that we have currently is app. So I want that to be at the top. And then for the time being, app has this heading component and then this task input component. And then I go on to kind of define those components further down. So we have heading here, and then task input, of course, also has its own task title input and description input components. But I want the top level component at the start. So we have this where we're using title input and description input, and then I'll kind of break down the components as we go down the file. Now, best practices from what I can recall would be to have these components in their own files, and that is definitely something we're going to be doing with Planner once the project grows a bit. But for the time being, I think it's okay to just have everything in this app.js file. But later on down the line, maybe after today's video and before the start of the next one, we can go ahead and get the components moved into basically their own files. So quickly overviewing the goals for today in particular, since the overarching goal and current goal will be the same from the last video, is, I guess this point is already done, so I'm just going to skip that. And so the main goal for today's session is going to be modifying our application to achieve the following, where submit button will not work with an empty title. So basically, we don't want users to just be clicking submit task and basically submitting empty tasks to us. We want there to at least be a title. And in tandem with that, we want the submit button to not work if the task title is being duplicated. So for the time being, we want task title to be basically the unique identifier for each task that the user defines. We want to show each added task item as it is added. So today we'll be adding a new component to basically show all the tasks that the user has added. And then we want to add remove functionality on a per task basis. So looking at our application now, we just have this singular clear task button, and we're going to be modifying the functionality of this too, of course, to kind of get rid of all the tasks that will be showing down here that the user enters. But we also want a per item remove button so that if a user wanted to remove just one task, they'd be able to do so. And then I just have a couple of bonus goals here. If we do well and we have some time left over, I plan to try and change the font and size type of the description field to match task title. So if I type some stuff in here, you'll see that currently the font size and font type actually are different between the task title and the task description. It kind of bothers me. It's not a priority right now, but it's definitely something that I want to get figured out somewhere along the line. And of course, at the end, one more bonus point is where it would be nice if we can today to have an alert display when a user tries to add an invalid task. So that might be something that has a duplicated title or an empty title. And then of course, to finish off, we want to be pushing the changes to GitHub so that you guys, whoever wants to follow along with Planner's progress, will be able to do so. So with that said, let's jump into modifying the state a little bit. What we're going to be doing today is, I think it's a pattern called moving the state up. So in the last video, we added state to a number of components. So we see here in task input, we have this submitted state variable. And then for title input and description input, we have their own state components. And For the time being, this has been okay, simply because we haven't really been interacting, the different components, haven't had to interact with each other's states. But with what I want to do today, for example, having submit, check whether or not we have a task title first, I need to know what the value of this title state variable is, even though this submit button is defined in a different component. Now, when we do that, we'll need to be moving the state variable for title up in a way that this submit button and this title component kind of have a common place from which they can interact. So instead of just talking about it, let me kind of show you what I mean. But before that, one thing I'm going to do is add this, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I'm going to add this task list component that we want to have kind of to hold the list of tasks that the user has defined. And then let's just go ahead and define that as so as well. So for the time being, I'm just going to have it be an empty function. I'm just trying to flesh out what other components we want to add today. And then in this task list, I might want to do something like this. So I'm going to use something new that I also learned, which is destructuring props, which basically means in these curly brackets, I can tell what I'm expecting to get from props. And that way I don't have to always keep specifying props dot, you know what I mean. Okay guys, sorry about that. I'm back. So as I was saying, we have moved the title and the title state variable and then the method to update that state variable up to app. So now we want to be passing the state down to whatever components need to update based on it. So of course, the first step will be passing it into task input. And then from task input, we will need to pass it down to title input because that is the field we want to be updating when the user is typing in the task title and therefore updating the title that we want to save the task under. All right. So starting off, we pass it into task input. I'm not going to do any destructuring here simply because we'll have to be passing a lot of state variables into task input, as you'll see in a short while. And then in task input, again, we want to be passing in props.title. And for the set title, we want to be passing in props.setTitle. And for the time being, since we haven't really worked on task lists yet, I'm just going to comment out this component and check to see whether or not our state is still working as we'd expect, even though we just moved the state up. So what we're going to do next is basically the same thing, but for this, the description. So we have desk and set desk to manage the state of the description. And this, of course, also uses an empty string. And over here, we're going to have it passed down like so. And then once again, in task input, we're going to come down here and basically pass the same things through as we did for title input, but for description. Okay, so now let's check that works as expected as well. Yep, that works as expected. So next, let's only update the counter for submitted tasks if the title field is not empty. So what we can do here, just for starters, is something like this. I believe strings do have a length property in JavaScript. Let me check though. the dot length property. So now, of course, here we need to if props dot title dot length does not equal 0, we want to set submitted to submitted plus 1. So let's see if this works as expected. Oh, okay, input an ALEP at the top level. Give me a second, guys. Let me figure this out, and I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I'm back. So I was just trying to put the if statement in the wrong spot, so that was a bit unfortunate, but hopefully that should have been resolved. And now, okay, so if I'm submitting with nothing in the task field, submitted task isn't being updated, that's what we want to see. And then, yep, if we have something in here, then it'll go ahead and update the counter. Okay, so we can see now that even though our state has been defined at the top level, we can still kind of perform functionality outside of the component that the state is defined in, as long as we're passing it down to the components that actually need it. So effectively, we had low-level state variables that were basically just living in the component that used them. We moved them up into a higher-level parent component, if you will, and passing them down, we can kind of share relevant state between components as well, since the state itself is defined in a higher-level component. So, what do you want to be doing next? I think now is a good time to start implementing the task list component. So let's start with that. So of course, task list will also have to depend on a state variable, because of course we'll have a dynamic list of tasks that we want to update as the user adds and removes tasks. So let me go ahead and implement that. It might take a while, so I'm going to go ahead and speed up the next little bit, and then I'll see you guys on the other side. Alright guys, so that was a lot. I guess kind of having an off night. I'm making a lot of little errors here and there. But we have managed to update our app a little bit. So we implemented the task list and task list item components. And there was also some errors I made when moving this data for description. So we fixed that as well. And now, as you can see, what we've already implemented is that, if I enter kind of just like this random task here, it will show up over here. This is a warning that we will have to examine in the future, but for now, we're just going to hide it from our view. So we have the task title and then a task description showing up. Of course, this remove task button doesn't do anything just yet. And then if I was to try and enter something with an empty task title, as I've already verified, yep, it shouldn't work anymore. And this clear task, it will reset the counter, but we also need to remove all these tasks. And also we need to kind of have submitted tasks be tied to the length of the list that we're showing down here, rather than just how many times the user clicks the submit button. So unfortunately that took a bit longer than I would have wanted, but we are kind of running out of time for tonight. I actually want to go to bed kind of soon. So I think that's where I'm going to leave off today. I definitely didn't get through as much as I wanted to today. We definitely completed point A and we completed point C, but as for point D and B, we'll have to move this over to tomorrow, but that's where we're going to pick up tomorrow. So I hope this video doesn't turn out to be too long, actually, because I'm trying to kind of condense them down into 10-15 minutes max. But yeah, that's it for me today. To me in the future, I hope you're still keeping up with this. And to anyone still patient enough to watch, I really appreciate you. I hope you have a wonderful day doing whatever it is you want to do. And yeah, have a good one.